Well, welcome back to Pennsylvania and another iteration of some game design and development that we're doing as a group on this cold day. So if you look at the IPP chart in front of you, you're going to see something odd. You're going to see Global War 19XX. This is a global game of empires early in the 20th century. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring together World War I and World War II technology, as you can see there in our technology sheet that we're using for play testing. So it's not very pretty, it's definitely not final art, but we are bringing together these two wars in one long continuum between World War I through World War II as the empires from the earliest 20th century have a final showdown. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking about how unhistorical this is, and I will acknowledge that. If you use your imagination and recognize that that period of time was not necessarily predestined, at least by mankind, to go in a certain historical trajectory. And I'll talk through some of those as I transition over to the other table in just a moment. But my neighbor and I, and maybe some others, are going to help us play test through this. And the idea, the general idea, is a World War I setup, a World War I series of diplomacy, which we can see right here, same old diplomacy map, and World War I units that will be transitioned through the long period of the game to World War II technology. Now, this is a game that is ongoing, but if you'll join me for a moment in using your imagination to think about the historical context in the early 20th century. Here's the United States, secure on both sides of her continent by very large oceans, who has just waged successful war against the Spanish in securing the Philippines in the Spanish-American War, and has achieved a level of manifest destiny that has ensured possible long-term peace and issued a Monroe Doctrine that has led to an isolationist view of the world around them. Except that perhaps the Monroe Doctrine isn't as well received in South and Central America as it was in reality. And so the United States, in an effort to maintain peace and order to their south, just like they did with the Mexican Revolution, has decided to attack. And in their arrogance, has proceeded to do so, or could proceed to do so. And there's Britain, still unsure of their relationship with France after the tumultuous 1800s, and watching France be humiliated by a rising German empire, feels very insecure in her position against those other empires that have a presence all over the world, just like they do. France, still feeling bitter in her position relative to the German Empire, which was unified after the war in 1870, has decided that France needs to exert her influence equally over the rest of the world. And of course, Russia, with Tsar Nicholas II, has always had an expansion mindset, dating back to Peter the Great and Catherine the Great. And Tsar Nicholas is born of the same blood and is looking for opportunities to move south and west. Austria, the Ottomans, Japan, Italy, they are not player nations. This will be a 5-player game, but they are minor powers with a reference sheet. And as we know, the Austrians and the Ottomans were both considered failing empires. The Ottomans ruled many areas in name only, not in reality. It was more like a conclave of various minor powers who just cooperated for mutual benefit. So there is a chance that there will be an economic collapse during this game where they'll be fully absorbed into whatever empire controls them. But note what I just said there. Whatever empire actually controls them. It could be the Germans, it could be the French, it could be any one of the 5 powers that I just named. They get added to the diplomacy chart just like everybody else that is a minor power in the game. Finally, China, just with the brilliant work that General Hand Grenade did in designing the Chinese warlord era, that will continue into this game and has some impact on the objectives and secret objectives. So, as I stated, you have a World War I map, you have a World War I setup, you start with World War I technology and World War I diplomacy, but the alliance set of World War I is not solidified yet between those empires. And so you will see the 5 major players vying for other smaller minor powers, some with reference sheets, many without, all attempting to make them part of their union so they can achieve their objectives. The objectives are secret, they're randomized, some of them are nation specific, and there are 12 non-nation specific, some of which may end up being shared by the nations that are playing. For example, in this test game, we have at least 2 nations who have the same secret objective for achieving ownership of certain parts of the map. Additionally, 3 of the nations have the secret objective of having more technology than any of the others, and those secret objectives are worth a considerable amount of points. Additionally, the minor powers of Italy, Ottomans, China, Austria, and Japan can also have national objectives, which if you align them to your alliance, will give you another opportunity to make even more points. There are going to be options for 2, 3, and 4-player games, not just 5-player games. And as this progresses, the mechanics for non-combat, combat, and placement of units and all other matters related to that are going to come straight from Global 36 version 4.2.1. It is with the help of both communities that we will be able to see something like this. And my hope is that we are providing an opportunity for owners of both Global 14 and Global 36 to put the two together in what might be a somewhat simpler version of the rules, because you won't have long, complicated turns such as determining the disposition of the Russian Revolution or the disposition of Vichy France after France is conquered. There have been some modifications accordingly in the rule book, and the rule book for this game right now is a whopping 33 pages long, with obvious need to reference version 4 if you're playing those mechanics, you're going to need to be able to turn to version 4 of Global 36 in order to shape your understanding of combat. But otherwise, the technology, the objectives, and kind of how this game gets started, all will come from this much smaller, much easier to digest rule book. So it's with great excitement that we announce this. We'll continue working on it through the holidays and work with Doug. If this is something that he wants to publish next year, then that'll be a great opportunity, I think, for historical board gaming. If not, then we'll see by what other means it can be disseminated. If you are interested in participating in some of the testing, there may be that opportunity later. It's something that I can work with Doug on trying to figure out, again, if this is a release that Historical Board Gaming wants to entertain under their trademark. I look forward to it because it's just going to be another great way to use the resources that you've already invested so much into. The really fun thing is you're also going to see some of the units that have been introduced through other means, such as engineers, special operations, and additional air defense artillery in an expansion that we've worked on recently. So all of that will be encompassed in this new Global Empires 19XX, and look forward to hearing what your thoughts are on that. Please place them in the comments below.